Teamwork isn't just nice to have in business, it's the undisputed competitive advantage. When your team members work as a unified force, your whole operation benefits through higher productivity, thriving creativity, and unstoppable momentum. Welcome to the Impactful Teamwork Podcast, where we share with you strategies and tactics to help you develop game-changing teams so that you and your business can make a real difference in the world.
So today on Impactful Teamwork, the podcast, we are going to delve into the 5 myths about teams. And this is an episode I'm super excited to share with you. So for those of you that don't know me, my name's Julia Felton, and I am going to be your host and guide for the next 20 minutes while we delve into the topic of teamwork. Because those of you that have been listening to us for a while will know that the main theme that we talk about here on Impactful Teamwork is how to unleash the superpower within your business that is teamwork. And today I'm going to be drawing on some material from a book that I'm currently reading, which is about teams that work, the 7 drivers of team effectiveness. But before we start diving into these 5 different myths about team performance, let's just get really clear about what a team is. Because in business today, we have people that work as a team, but we also have people that work together as groups of people. And I think often there's a confusion between what is a group of people working together and what is a team. So for the purposes of this episode, and generally, we define a team as 2 or more people who interact with one another. And for part of that interaction, at least, the team members need to rely on each other at least some of the time. They also share a common sense of purpose or goals. And importantly, they're viewed by a unit by others and also by themselves. So what's the difference between that and a group of people? Because a group of people who work together in the same room isn't necessarily a team. So simply sharing a workspace or performing similar tasks doesn't constitute being a team. So a highly effective team is one that demonstrates sustained performance, team resilience, and ongoing vitality. And you'll remember on last week's episode, we spoke a lot about the vitality and the energy of the business. And if a team expends all of its resources to meet short-term goals, and as a result of that impacts its future capabilities and performance, we wouldn't regard that as highly effective. And again, on last week's podcast, we spoke about the longevity of teams and how nature works on a longer cycle, and it's not all about short-term gains. So if a team produces positive results when the conditions are favorable, but crumbles when things get tough, or takes a really long time to rebound from negative events, I don't think we would consider that to be highly effective. And also, it's not highly effective if the team burns out its team members, and therefore it lacks this really critical vitality and energy that we all need in order to adapt and persevere and innovate going forward. So with that in mind, let's just think a little bit about what are these common myths about teamwork. Because I think that we can all agree that organizations are having to become much, much flatter. And this is because we need to have self-managing teams to respond to the dynamic environment in which we're now living. And a study of 23,000 team members conducted by CEB, which is a global research and advisory firm, found out that most people want to work collaboratively. The problem is that obstacles often get in the way. But I think one thing is certain is that teamwork is this competitive superpower. It makes a difference to the organization and how the organization responds and adapts to the situations around it, and also how successful it is. So at some point, if you're a team member, you are going to be part of a team. And of the survey that conducted by CEB, over 2/3 of the respondents said that they are finding collaboration requirements are increasing within their organizations. And this research is substantiated by the Harvard Business Review that reported that the time spent in collaborative activities has grown by 50%. So what does that mean for you as an individual? It means that there's going to be fewer opportunities to work alone because leaders are beginning to realize the importance of teamwork. I think it's really important, though, to recognize that companies form and disband work teams and cross-functional teams, and even project teams and virtual teams with great regularity. And why is that? I think that many teams can struggle with a few things. And the first is that 70% of team members believe teams are critical to the success of the organization. But interestingly, less than 25% of team members consider their own teams to be effective. So that's a big difference. 90% think it's really important and critical, but only 25% of people believe that their teams are effective. We know that in terms of software projects, that over 60% of those projects are typically delivered behind schedule, and almost 50% come in over budget. Team-related problems contribute to almost 50% of the failures in business startups. And teamwork breakdowns are one of 3 leading causes of safety problems in hospitals. And that was according to the Institute of Medicine Studies. And perhaps even more alarmingly, is less than 25% of executives feel confident in their ability to build cross-functional teams. So working in teams can have great benefits, but it isn't easy. And I'm sure, like me, some of you have had some great experiences of working in teams, and you've also had some bad experiences of being on a team. And the problem is when we have a bad teamwork experience, that can make us less inclined to take on another team assignment. And I think about a few years ago, I was mentoring a lot of students that were doing masters in engineering. And it was really interesting mentoring those young people because one of the challenges they tended to find was that there was often somebody on their team. They often had to work in teams for projects and deliver a dissertation or something at the end of the semester. They found 1 or 2 people on the team that just didn't pull their weight. And that was always a source of big exasperation for them, is they wanted to do well, but they felt really frustrated carrying their colleagues. And that we find that happening in the workplace as well, where one team member feels like they are carrying another, and that can have a very adverse effects on morale. So there are a lot of opinions about what makes teams work. And so this is why I wanted to bust some of the myths that exist today. Some of the myths are well grounded, but most of the myths about teamwork are based in pure conjecture, just what we think people want to hear or we think we should do. Some of the beliefs that are out there include things like, it's really important that we spend time together outside of work and learn to get along. So that's what's sometimes referred to as the like each other theory. Another theory that exists is the key is to talk it out. You can't hold anything back or the team won't improve. So being really open within the team. The magic theory is it's all about the chemistry. You'll know really quickly if the team will click. Or how about the minimize interference theory, which is all about if you leave me alone, I'll get it done. Or finally, the strong leader theory, where the leader needs to be tough and set the direction and hold everyone accountable. So maybe you can resonate with some of those. And are any of them valid? So in this particular book, Teams That Work, The 7 Drivers of Team Effectiveness, they have really unpacked some of these and spoken to psychologists and neuroscientists and behavioral economists and sociologists to really find out whether these theories stack together in practice. And so what they've started to pull together is the science of teamwork. And of course, we all know that the best teams aren't great on day one, but they learn from their experiences and they make smart adjustments and self-correct over time. And what the research has shown is that teams that adapt continually boost performance. And knowing that really drives team performance can enable team leaders and team members to really make smart adjustments, knowing that as a result, they are going to get better and better success. So let's debunk these 5 false assumptions about teams and teamwork. And the first myth is that focusing on teamwork is a distraction from getting real work done. And I hear this quite a bit from some of my clients, which is we don't have time for teamwork. We've got a business to run. And team leaders are concerned that spending time doing things that they feel aren't really work related is going to have a negative impact on performance. And often these are people who think that teamwork is about having a team party and going to dinner together. And this was certainly the case with somebody I was speaking with just recently on a call. And it takes quite a shift for a business leader to realize that teamwork is not distinct from getting work done. Teamwork is how work gets done. And when leaders realize that teamwork is how work gets done, then they're more willing to focus time on boosting teamwork. And there's plenty of evidence that teamwork boosts performance. So here are some statistics. Teams that demonstrate better teamwork processes are 20 to 25% more likely to succeed. Team training improves on-the-job performance by an average of 17%. And organizations that boost their collaborative performance have a 5% greater annual revenue increase than those that emphasize individual achievements alone. And that last statistic is from the Corporate Executive Board. And I think what I would just say is there's something to really think about, that focusing on teamwork isn't a distraction. It can actually be a strategic competitive advantage. Myth number 2 is if team members like each other and maintain harmony, the team will be successful. And of course, we all want to work with people that we dislike. It's not much fun working with people we dislike. But actually, liking your teammates isn't a prerequisite for team effectiveness. It's actually how you work together that matters. I work a lot in some different teams, and I remember my time in the hospitality industry in particular, where there's often people that I don't necessarily particularly, but we're able to work effectively together. Interestingly, a piece of research by a gentleman called Richard Hackman actually found that people playing in orchestras, the grumpier the orchestra members, the better they performed. Why was that? They didn't necessarily all like each other, but all the team members had a clear understanding and agreement about how they would perform together and how they would succeed. Of course, this is different from spending time just hanging out with people. And Google has again done quite a bit of research on this because Google recognized that some of their teams perform better than others. And when they did some research, a project called Project Aristotle, it was a 2-year data-driven study of their teams. The hypothesis they went into Project Aristotle with was that team members who spent more time hanging out together would be the best teams. But actually, over the course of their research, they found no support for that hypothesis. And when team members hang out together, that's not going to necessarily create negative performance. It can create challenges where team members want to maintain so much harmony that they don't want to bring up any concerns that might be happening within the business. So this whole concept of healthy conflict can sometimes get suppressed when people are being too nice to each other. And if we go back to Patrick Lencioni's model of the 5 dysfunctions of a team, healthy conflict is something that is in there. It's right at the bottom, just above trust. We actually need teams to engage in healthy conflict and have honest conversations with each other in order for them to become high performing and the most effective they can be. So it doesn't hurt to be friendly with your team members, but it's not a prerequisite for team effectiveness. Myth number 3 is being a team player means suppressing individual excellence. And I think sometimes there is a false dichotomy out there that you either need to look after yourself or be a team player, and that you can't do both at the same time. And that really is nonsense. It's either thinking there's an either or. And actually, we can strive for individual excellence while simultaneously caring about our team and enabling our teammates to be successful. And I think the more that as organizations we work within teams, we are becoming less tolerant of egotistical stars, people taking the glory for the team without really appreciating the interdependence and interconnectedness that's been happening within the team that has made them successful. And we only have to look to somebody like NASA, where they want astronauts who are individually excellent, but also great team players, people that can work with others and elevate the people around them. So we have got this dichotomy going on because we want people to be great within a team, but we also want people to be individually competent as well. And of course, Michael Jordan, we all know about him, arguably one of the best basketball players in history. And at the beginning of Michael Jordan's career, he really focused on his own individual scoring statistics. And it was only really when he started elevating his teammates that his team, the Bulls, started winning championships. There isn't any empirical evidence that shows that being a top collaborator creates better performance or guarantees better performance, but it doesn't preclude it either. So you can be a team and be individually excellent. And perhaps I argue we should strive for both. Myth number 4 is that teamwork can overcome a significant lack of talent. And I think if we only look to sports and business teams, when you've got a large talent deficit, those teams almost never win because competencies and capability do matter. And teamwork can't overcome a significant lack of talent. Because if team members are simply incapable of performing their work assignments, better teamwork doesn't actually solve the problem. Maybe in the short term, you might be able to blag it through for a short period of time, but over time, it will become apparent that there are insufficient talent and expertise within the team. And as we're going to look in myth 5 in a moment, when you've got a team that are lacking in capability, adding an amazing team player doesn't solve the problem. So we shouldn't assume that adding a great person to the team, like a Michael Jordan to the team, is going to improve performance unless, of course, the task that particular person is doing requires no coordination and cooperation with their other team members. So teamwork does matter, but so does talent. Competence matters. And it's difficult, if not impossible, to overcome a dearth of talent through teamwork. Myth number 5 is teams are always the answer. And you know how passionate I am about teamwork and the power of teamwork. But let's be really clear. Teams are not the panacea. Not all work should be performed in teams. Some tasks should be handled by individuals, assigned to committees and task force with dire consequences if things don't work out. So a team isn't always the answer. And the challenge is when used inappropriately, teamwork can lead to a suppression of innovation, social loafing, delays, and inefficiency. So that really means that when we're forming a team, we really need to think about whether a team is the right solution. Would the task be something better handled by an individual? Because if that's the case and we create a team, then people can incorrectly assume that the team doesn't work. So teams only work when they are deployed for the right reasons. So we need to be smart about when a team is needed, when a team is formed, and use key drivers to help ensure that the team works as it should. Because as I said, some work is better performed by individuals or by a loose coupling of individuals. And I think the challenge with teamwork is that there aren't simple truths. There's not a kind of golden formula that works for every single team. But there are some things that exist in teams that really make them work well. And these are the 7 C's of teamwork. And we're just going to close, and I'm not going to delve into them very deeply right now, but I'm just going to highlight what they are so that we can delve into them in another session. And the 7 drivers of team effectiveness are, first of all, capability. Do we have the right people with the right mix of knowledge and skills and other attributes? Capability is really important, and it's why it's one of the accelerators in the Unbridled Teamship Roadmap, because we really need to understand what the capabilities are of everybody in the team and how they have the right skills and knowledge so we can put them in the right roles at the right time. The second driver of team effectiveness is cooperation. Do the team possess the right beliefs and attitudes about their team? Third is coordination. Are the team exhibiting the necessary teamwork behaviors for team success? Number 4 is communication. Do team members communicate effectively with each other and with people outside the team? So all the other stakeholders that are impacted by the team. The 5th is cognition. Do team members possess a shared understanding about the key factors, such as priorities, roles, vision, values? Number 6, the 6th driver of team effectiveness is all about coaching. Does the leader or the team member demonstrate the necessary leadership behaviors? And lastly, number 7 is all about conditions. Is the context in which the team operates favorable for performing effectively? In other words, does it have the right resources, the right culture, the right support? And actually, number 7, I think, is really important. We spoke on the last podcast about organizational photosynthesis, and that's all about creating the right energy within the organization for things to operate effectively. And we talked on other editions of the podcast about the importance of environment. So we need to really foster the right environment that is going to make that team thrive. For example, we could have the best team, but if we put them in a position with limited resources and information, whatever they try, they are unlikely to be successful. Versus provide a team with the right resources and the right support and the right culture, and they can absolutely thrive and typically achieve exponential results. So a lot that we've covered there today on the 5 myths about teamwork, and then we've just closed talking about the 7 drivers of team effectiveness, which we will delve into more on another podcast. But my invitation to you this week is to really think about those 5 myths and how are they playing out within your organization? How are they impacting what you do within your teams? And maybe you need to reevaluate what is going on. Because as I said, teamwork is a massive superpower for your business, but it needs to be harnessed in the right way for it to be successful. So I hope you have an amazing week, and I look forward to hearing from you about how these myths have been impacting you and which of the 7 drivers you might want to focus on this week as you move forward. Have an amazing week and speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Impactful Teamwork Podcast. Please stay tuned for future episodes and do subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating on your favourite platform. Recommendations are essential for attracting new listeners. Please follow us on social media at Julia Felton and at Business Horsepower. And if there are any topics you'd like us to cover on future episodes, please do let me know. Remember, you and your team are always making an impact. What impact will you make today?